The question, who is the best bodybuilder of all time, is easily answered.
Mr. Olympia, Ronnie Coleman.
Ronnie Coleman.
Ronnie Coleman!
But what if I tell you there was a man who could not only hold a candle to Ronnie, but would beat the alleged invincible one in a contest after Mr. Olympia weight got dropped so badly that the audience cried out in disbelief and outrage.
And they will take the 5th place award and present them to Günter Schlierkamp.
Oh no. Here we go. Here we go.
He is one of the most mistreated bodybuilders of all time, as he was the only one who could contest the crown in the infamous Coleman era. Despite his unfair placings, he would always react with an iconic smile, which would later set him apart from other competitors. His character, charisma and charm would later overshadow the mistreatment and leave an exceptional legacy. After years of being overlooked by the bodybuilding world, he remained in his usual position as the German underdog. But even at the time of the mass monsters, he stood out as one of the biggest. The audience loved him, but the judges, however, ignored his outstanding frame and condition size. Despite his unquestionably impressive and for the other competitors dangerous physique, he would never be an outstanding bodybuilder in terms of titles. His best Mr. Olympia placing was 4th in 2004. At this time, bodybuilding was asking for monsters, but at the same time, the sport was dominated by physiques no taller than 6 feet. Only with some exceptions. He came with the perfect package for the time. His height was 6'1" and he weighed approximately 295 to 300 pounds during his competitive season. With his massive chest, shoulders, back and legs, he was truly just a tank rolling on the stage. Also, his arms were far from average. His biceps would be later recalled as one of the best of all time in the sport. With his presence and charisma, you might have thought the sport would accept the German heavyweight with open arms, but quite the opposite was the case. In his career as a pro bodybuilder, he had to overcome more than hard training, perfect diet and the mental warfare against his competitors. He had to beat the infamous underdog image of the sport. This is the story of Günter Schlierkamp.
And if you're enjoying this video so far, please consider subscribing, liking and leaving a comment. You could help me reach to 1000 subscribers till the end of the year. Thank you very much and back to the video.
Let's go back to the beginning, because at some point you had to have heard the name Arnold Schwarzenegger coming from Germany. Yeah. Obviously he's from Austria. Yeah. But when did the dream come true? Because you were a teenager, you were big, 6'1".
Yeah.
You were bodybuilding. When and why when you started?
Well, you know, if I would have listened to everyone else, you know, they call me crazy, said, why you do bodybuilding? Yeah. And for me, it was always, first I started to just get into, you know, you want to look athletic. I was always good in sports. I was fast. I had short power impact and all this stuff, you know. And then, you know, I played some soccer and I got already that time, everything got too big at like 14 years old. All of a sudden, the hormone came. And then they say, man, you got to watch your weight and stuff. But I wasn't like heavy or like in a way fat. I already like legs grew, they got muscular and all this stuff. And I said, well, you know, start a little lifting. I start with dumbbells at home. And 2 weeks later, people say, what the hell are you doing? Your freaking arms look huge.
Growing.
Then with 16, I joined the gym because I said, nah, maybe it's what, you know, and then and I said, I want to take it a little further. But for me, like physically, because I always looked at Conan and Hercules movies and said, I want to look like that, you know.
Were you looking at Sports Review and the bodybuilding magazines? Were you seeing other people that maybe you could mimic or that you admire?
Well, actually, at the time, it was Barry DeMay.
Barry from
because
Holland.
Yeah, he had the height and you know he had aesthetic and this kind of man. It's like I like that look.
Günter Schlierkamp was born on February 2nd, 1970 in Germany and grew up in a small rural town.
This is where I grew up actually. This is the old part of the house. So everything around here was still, you know, grass, it was trees. I remember just, you know, when I was little, I was running with my brothers here up and down to the street and we were running back up here and we was the fastest, of course. It was me. And even around here on the back, this was our field. I was actually driving with a tractor on it and, you know, made the field ready, that the corn could grow and everything. and the houses, everything, nothing was as it was. You could look almost behind the houses there. There's a big wood. Actually, you could watch or see, look up all the way to the wood.
As a child, he was already noticeably taller and bigger than most people around him. But he was not born into fame or success. He came from a modest background and spent much of his early life surrounded by hard work and discipline.
When I was 10, 11 years old, I got up very early in the morning, 4:30. I went to a farmer. Actually, it was like a half an hour drive with a bicycle, and he had asparagus. For each pound, you get a certain amount of money.
Right.
And then, you know, if you make a lot or you find a lot and you bring it to him and he was weighing it, then you get your money for that. And he was selling it. And I did this actually before school. And then I went to school at 8 o'clock, and I went all the way from 8 to 2 o'clock at noon to school. After that I went to the farm. Then I worked there from 2 to 6 o'clock in the evening, and sometimes in the evening I went to the gym. It was a whole day working.
Growing up, Günter was interested in sports and physical activity, but bodybuilding was still a very distant world to him. Everything changed during his teenage years when he discovered bodybuilding magazines and saw athletes like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Barry DeMay. The combination of size, discipline and confidence fascinated him and gave him a vision for what he wanted to become. At around 16 years old, he began training seriously in the gym. Even in his early years, people noticed his extraordinary genetics, especially his height, wide frame and natural muscle structure. But what separated him from many others was his persistence. Before becoming internationally known, Günter worked regular jobs and lived a relatively simple life, dedicating most of his energy to improving his physique.
How old were you when you left school?
I was 16.
Yeah.
And I started then to work as a mechanical worker for a coke mine, actually. And at first I had to learn for 3 years. I went to school.
His journey from a quiet German town to the world's biggest bodybuilding stages would later make him one of the most respected European bodybuilders of his era. And soon the European bodybuilding scene will know his name, because Günter is going to crush every single amateur class possible.
Let's jump to the pro card, because I always say that was my fondest memory. When I turned pro, it validated all those workouts, all those parties I didn't go to, all the football that I walked away from, and the lonely nights of eating tuna out of a can, and doing all the cardio and everything that you think you're supposed to do, and then boom, you get the award and you get your pro card. For me, that was my moment in time where it was a rite of passage. How about yourself? Like, when did you feel you arrived and like, I'm here?
Oh, wow. You mean on the pro level?
Well, just in terms of like your friends knowing that now you're a bona fide bodybuilder, right? Like,
oh yeah.
Was it after you turned pro or when you turned pro that you felt like this is what I'm doing, this is who I am?
For me, it started really at 18 years old because I did the newcomer.
Yeah.
And we had this little season for 7 competitions in a row.
Okay.
So, and I won all of them.
Wow.
So at the first time, and I was the first one to kind of break the mark of the 100 kilograms. Right. So I was in 3, I was 103.5 kilograms, what is about 220 pounds almost, you know. So for a junior at the time, it was pretty heavy. And then in 1988, and then I said, I think I have a talent for this. And then I started doing it. And then all of a sudden, my dad kind of, before he never, why are you doing that? Put the energy in something else, you make some money and all this stuff. And then he kind of like, oh, okay. All of a sudden, he come to the shows and he was like celebrating and all this stuff.
Yeah, because he didn't have anything to do with what you were doing at the gym.
Oh, no, nothing. I came from a small farm, and it's like we were driving tractors on the fields and all this stuff.
Günter Schlierkamp's rise began long before he stepped onto the professional stage. Throughout the late 1980s and early 1990s, he established himself as one of Germany's most promising bodybuilding talents. Blessed with exceptional height, broad shoulders and an aesthetic physique, he quickly stood out from his competitors. His first major success came in 1990, when he won the German Junior Championships and claimed the overall title. 2 years later, he proved himself on the international stage by winning both the German heavyweight Heavyweights and the IFBB European Amateur Championships. By 1993, Günter had become one of the top amateur bodybuilders in the world. At the IFBB World Amateur Championships, he captured the heavyweight title and earned his IFBB Pro card, completing a remarkable amateur career. In just a few years, Günter had transformed from a young German bodybuilding enthusiast into a world-class competitor, ready to take on the sport's biggest stage. With his newly acquired IFBB Pro card, the young German bodybuilder set his sights on the one place where bodybuilding legends were made, the United States. In the mid-1990s, Günter made a life-changing decision to leave Germany behind and move to America. It was a bold step. He was entering a world dominated by established stars and future legends, far away from home and everything he had known. But if Günter wanted to compete against the very best, there was no better place to be. In 1994, he made his professional debut and stepped onto the Mr. Olympia stage for the very first time. The placings were far from spectacular. In his early career as a pro bodybuilder, he felt overlooked. He didn't really get any attention from judges at the time, but he rapidly grew a huge fan base. Despite his underwhelming placings, important figures in the bodybuilding world became aware of him.
A gentleman by the name of Joe Weider saw you, and that had to be a different kind of encounter for you, because you wound up working with and for him. And I'm sure you thought about that long before you heard from him or before you met him. So when that reality came for you, was that like, this is Joe Weider? Like, tell me about that encounter. How did that happen?
Well, first of all, do you know the photographer Zeller?
Yeah, Artie Zeller.
Artie Zeller.
Rest in peace, yes.
Yeah, so he came in the gym and he just, I was training. Yeah. So I didn't know, I thought I heard about him, but I never met him. And there was and he starts all of a sudden, so when he comes and takes pictures.
Right up there, very
Right
aggressive.
up there, right in your face, he took pictures. And I said, okay, who are you? I said, well, I'm Günter. This is man. He said, the golden boy. And I said, what do you mean? It's like, you have the look. And I said, what look? And it's like, are you kind of like Arnold, kind of? I said, oh, okay.
You've heard that before.
Yeah. And then I said, okay, I get it. But then I didn't think much about it.
Right.
He literally took a picture and then he showed it to me like in black and white. It was really a great, just a headshot almost.
Yeah.
And he said, I took that to Joe. He wants to meet you. And that's how that ended up. And I was so, what? No way.
Yeah. And so you didn't know I knew who Art was when I actually met him, because he was Arnold's historian.
Yeah.
He had all the pictures. So if I saw him coming, I'm looking at opportunity. You were just taken back because you didn't know.
No, I did not. Wow. I did at the time. I wasn't really. And then he introduced himself, and then he showed. I saw some pictures. Said, "Oh my God,
he did all those pictures.
He did all those pictures with Arnold."
Yeah.
And then he talked. Obviously, right away, gave me a lesson about Joe and all this stuff. And
so Joe says what when you come? Because Joe loves a big bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. If he saw those arms in their prime, I know he had to light up. So how was he when was he playing coy, like you're okay, or was he like you're the next guy? I mean, did he light up?
He was like, I said, oh, how you doing, Günter?
Everyone has to talk like Joe.
Yeah. It's like, how you say? I'm doing great. And I said, God damn it, you're back. It's like, but you kind of walk a little bit on this.
You're never thinking of it. Yeah, you're always a work in progress.
You got right away. I said, damn it, he got my weakness.
Yeah.
And soon Günter will find himself training in the legendary Gold's Gym, surrounded by hard-working competitors. This environment will shape his training performance and style, as the most important year of his career comes closer and closer.
When you walk into Gold's Gym, what did you see? Like
first of all, everyone. It's like it was Paul, Chris, you were once in a while.
You know the parking lot.
Yeah. You're not always there, but you were there sometimes weekends, I guess.
Yeah.
Charles, obviously. It's really interesting. Charles also had a name already at that time already, and I haven't met him yet.
Yeah.
In Germany, that he's like training a lot of or trained with Flex.
Yeah, he had a slew of people he worked with.
Yeah. And
he still does it.
He's still doing it. And then then saw him and all the other guys saying, oh my God. And, in this like just atmosphere. But it was always, it was really what you expect. Everyone, not even competitors or about professionals, everyone was into it. They just grinded it out.
They came there to work out.
Yeah, and phones weren't happening and all this stuff. Now you go in a gym and there's people sitting on a bench and say, oh, I have to do a rep. Then they do a couple and they're on their phone again.
Yeah, they say that's the end of bodybuilding because they cell phones.
Oh, 100%.
You were at the peak of the 90s there. Did anybody take you under their wing besides Charles that was there that welcomed you? Like, was there someone like Ed Connors or?
Oh yeah, of course. Well, Ed is the one who sort of gave out the invitation.
Oh, okay.
So Ed Connors, he already. Well, when I was in Jersey, I ran into him at the Arnold's Classic, and we end up together in the elevator.
Yeah.
And he looks and said, Günter, and I said, why are you not out in California? Come to Goldstream, you know? And I said, well, I am in New Jersey. I said, what are you doing in New Jersey? I mean, he looked at me like,
yeah,
what?
New Jersey.
Yeah, New Jersey, yeah. Well, I found my first sponsor there. So that was a good part about it. And then kind of, you know, we tried it. It didn't work. I mean, we were miserable there. That was all I can say. But then Ed said, I want to invite you, stay with me for a couple of weeks or months, and then see, you know, if you find something and, you know, you have already your contract, your sponsor there. It's like, okay, yeah, and then it worked out. So I ended up renting a studio that Mike Matarazzo had before me.
It's a small world because Ed helped a lot.
Totally.
Ed was one of the founders of Gold's Gym in Venice Beach, and he extended gratitude to a lot of people, Gary Stridham and Jay Cutler and yourself, Mike Matarazzo. A lot of guys for the very first time, Ed would help them get on their feet. But once you got on your feet in Venice Beach and you were amongst your peers, now you're seeing your competition. What was your attitude like when you see somebody like, I don't know, Flex or myself or your competitors coming into the gym? Did you feel a little something when you saw, there they are, those are the guys I gotta beat? Did you feel anything? I always did.
Of course. Well, you know, you always do the, you know, always check them out.
Especially
you always
in between sets, right?
No, first of all, you know, the thing is always, so you start doing more cardio.
Yeah.
Right? So
now you're
always
you're
like,
in the bird's nest.
Yeah. It's like, you know, I said, okay, so you come in the gym one time and I said, okay, there's Flex, there's Paul and Chris walking on a treadmill.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy smokes. And I said, I need to come early. I said, what time are they getting here? Because, you know, I had my training routine and set everything set up.
Right.
So anyway, and I was like, okay, the next one was before 6 o'clock there.
You gotta get there before them.
And then you watch, okay, how are they doing it? And then, you know, you see them walking, holding onto the treadmill, leaning back.
Slow.
And I say, yeah, slow. And I said, nah. And I say, I need to do something different, you know? And then it's kind of like, so when you lean back and slow, you don't really engage your glutes and hamstring. But so if you lean forward, you walk uphill and you push off, that gets your glutes and hamstrings. So I said, if I can get that tighter, you know, because I always look and say, I know exactly what the weakness is. He's a little soft in his hams and the glutes always. So in my head was always thinking, and I was always like silent, but you watch everybody. Also when there were exercises and you can tell, man, you know, he always has these freaking delts. How does he do this, you know? And then you see exercises or you watch Charles, what's he doing with it? And of course you go like next day, you're in the gym, I have to try this day.
Yeah. You know, because the ones that train hard and the ones that don't.
Yeah, and the thing is, you kind of know your weaknesses too, or what you need to focus on. Sometimes mostly you don't want to because, you know, it's a weakness. It's mostly hard to train. So you like always to train what feels good and pops right away, right?
Yeah, so it was important for you to see your rivals, right? I mean, it inspired you to see them working out.
100%, yeah. And also what they do, because you learn from the best. Yes. That's the only way how you learn, when you watch your best and the people you want to beat, you know? So you gotta use some tools, and you cannot do exactly what they do because everybody's different. But if you see something that said, that makes totally sense.
Finally, things are coming together for Günter. He set foot in America, found training partners, friends and sponsors. He made his way to the US and became a pro bodybuilder. The audience started to love his appearance and his character on stage. His famous smile would excite thousands of fans. At this point, he lived, trained and competed for almost 5 years in the United States. But still, nobody seemed to recognize that he was even there. In 1998, at the Mr. Olympia, he placed 15th. In 2000 he placed 12th, and in 2001 he placed again 15th. Underwhelming to say at least, for someone who committed 100% to the grind and gave everything he had to offer to the sport. But then something happened that nobody expected. At the Mr. Olympia in 2002, Günter's physique was just out of this world. His immense size in combination with his height and conditioning, he walked on the stage that night like a new crafted superhero. The crowd couldn't believe it, and the judges couldn't ignore his physique any longer.
I think a lot of people like the work I do with people, fans, how I promote bodybuilding. Actually, I think also in a way of, because there's a lot of health involved, you have to eat right, you have to eat actually pretty healthy to, you know, gain muscles and stuff like that. I think what made the difference is a lot of people like my look, actually, even if I never got the appreciation for my look from sometimes at the shows from judges.
But his actual placing would be one of the most controversial decisions of all time in the sport. He placed 5th. However, most people thought he deserved the Mr. O title this night. But the professional and kind man that he is, his reaction was respectful. He actually valued his fans more than the title.
He's going to speak.
Hey guys, just want to let you know, you made my day. That means more to me than the placing. Thank you very much.
Many people argue still to this day if Günter should have stolen the Mr. Olympia title from Ronnie Coleman this year. Also, the rivalry between these two became clear in the legendary press conference.
I remember at the Olympia press conference, man, you were really cocky this year. You knew that you were going to be in the fight because at the press conference, you stood up and said something like, I'm 300 pounds. And Ronnie goes, well, I'm 300 pounds too. What do you want to do? And you were both like had on these tight shirts. You were sweating under the arms. And you guys were like going at it. And we hadn't seen that ever, that level of gamesmanship at an Olympia press conference. But this is when we're only talking about 300 pounds. You're 6'1".
Yeah.
We're talking about 300 pounds in shape, and which means you had to come down from a little bit more weight than that. But you were pushing that envelope. You were one of the few guys that was pushing that envelope of size. You, Nasser, and Ronnie, and maybe JP Fuchs. Yeah, you guys were the mass monsters of that time. But you brought a level of conditioning with that mass. Not structurally the best bodybuilder, but when you got up there with Ronnie, you were in shape. Were you buying into the idea that you were going to be the next Mr. Olympia at some point?
You know, I was hoping always at least win one. That's always everybody's
We all
dream.
do, yes.
So we all want to do that.
But the Olympia in 2002 was not the highlight of Günter's career. The 2002 GNC Show of Strength took place on November 9th, 2002 in New Orleans, Louisiana, just 3 weeks after the Mr. Olympia where he got robbed. At the time, Ronnie Coleman appeared untouchable. Fresh of his 5th consecutive Mr. Olympia victory, he had dominated the sport for years and was widely regarded as the best bodybuilder on the planet. Determined to prove himself, Günter arrived in New Orleans in arguably the best shape of his career. Standing nearly 6'2" and weighing close to 300 pounds, he combined massive size with impressive conditioning and stage presence. As the comparisons unfolded, it became clear that this would not be another routine victory for Ronnie Coleman. For the first time in years, the reigning Mr. Olympia was being seriously challenged. When the final results were announced, the bodybuilding world was stunned. Günter had done what almost nobody thought was possible. He defeated Ronnie Coleman at the height of his dominance.
I feel like finally people notice that I'm there. And,
3 weeks later, I believe this contest pops up in Louisiana, the GNC Championships.
Yeah.
I think it's,
GNC
was it 100,000 for that time?
Yeah.
It jumped up to 100 grand, which was on par with the Olympia.
Oh, yeah.
I think the Olympia was 110, and here's this $100,000 payday. And Ronnie, naturally, I'm Mr. Olympia, I'm winning everything, I'm going to Louisiana, and you knocked him on his butt to the degree that literally got you a standing ovation. And I don't know if that was a feeling of redemption because they thought you should have got that 3 weeks prior at the Olympia, or because they actually did it. A lot of people didn't think they would actually do it.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I actually know because Kevin was already after the pre-judging, he comes running up. He just said, man, you can really beat him. You can do it. And I said, dude, they never let me beat him. And I said, for me, well, that is one thing that I thought for me always it should be an open game. It's like running freaking 100 yards. If you're the fastest, you're the fastest. If you're the best in shape, you should be the best in shape.
I agree.
That makes it more interesting. I say, who is it this year? Can he do it again? Can he do it again? And I think that should be the way how it should be.
Where do you think you beat Ronnie in that contest? Where was the win for you? Was Ronnie off or were you on?
I think that Ronnie was that year. He missed kind of like, I don't know. So first of all, I felt already at the Olympia, I said, he wasn't quite as full and he didn't appear to be like tight.
Yeah.
You know, remember that condition he had at that Arnold's Classic the year before?
2001, he was ready.
Oh
Yes.
my God.
That was his best, I think.
Yeah. And then, and then also, and I was like, there's something not right. So anyway, and then 3 weeks later, sometimes if you don't hit the mark in the beginning, right, and then you're even in 3 weeks, sometimes you can change your whole diet and come in and you say, I maybe have a chance.
Yeah.
So I was pursuing and doing whatever I could.
Yeah.
So, and I actually scaled in at 302 pounds at that show.
Yeah.
And it was like, and I still, when I put my glutes in, it's like in the morning, it's like in the mirror, and all was straight.
They were tight. Yeah.
And at 6'1", that is hard to do.
Very much.
That's hard to do.
You were the only one that did it, actually.
Yeah. And then, and then I said, I just wondered, though, I said, is he capable of getting that condition that he used to have and be like, oh my God, you can compete with it, or, and so he was still not right.
Were you thinking about him going into that show? Because you knew he was coming.
Yeah.
This is 3 weeks after. You knew he was coming, but you tightened up. You had to be harder. Did you think they were going to give it to you?
I did not think they would do it.
Yeah.
That was, I literally didn't think they would let you win, because Ronnie won obviously Olympia. He's Olympia. And, it's almost like you have to, I don't know, like in boxing, you can clearly beat someone, but you didn't knock him quite out.
The victory is still remembered as one of the greatest upsets in bodybuilding history and remains the only loss Ronnie Coleman suffered during his legendary Mr. Olympia reign from 1998 to 2005. For one night in New Orleans, the king had been dethroned, and the man who did it was the gentle giant from Germany. Günter really did the impossible.
You're that guy that unseated Ronnie Coleman as a reigning Olympia winner, and that was a big thing because that's never happened. I want to get some clarity on this. So there the two of you are. Kevin blindsides you when you are announced first. I want to know what that felt like. Was it a surprise, or were you like, you know what, I earned this. I'm not surprised. I should have beat him 3 weeks ago.
Oh, well, dude, how you describe that feeling? First of all, goosebumps from toe to head, like we talking the top. All of a sudden you go like this.
Yeah.
Like, you're shaking. And when I walk off the stage, I was literally almost like it seemed off balance.
Yeah.
It was, and not because I was dehydrated or whatever. I felt like, fuck, what just happened? Oh my God. And then it's like, your eyes getting all red and teary and all this stuff. And I said, no way. There's no way.
Yeah.
And because it was so unexpected, and even though Kevin was talking about it, man, you can beat him. Dude, I'm sitting right up front. You have him. And I said, dude, never. Dude, how many times did you think you beat him?
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Oh, and then it's like, and then I said, that will never happen. And it happened. So it's like, man, I didn't know first of all.
Was that life changing? I saw you on the tour. Like, I saw you signing autographs. It was, nobody can get close to you, but then it never happened again.
Yeah.
Especially at the Olympia, because Ronnie would go on to win 3 or 4 more Olympia victories.
Was the best thing that ever happened to him that I beat him.
Yeah.
That's what I said. Because first of all, I thought it literally gave him another hint of motivation.
Couple more years.
Yeah, a couple more years. And that year, I don't know. It's hard to say. In my opinion, he was, whatever happened there, he couldn't get it to the point to look the way he wants to look. On that day. That also happened then 3 weeks later. It happened at the Olympia, he didn't look right. And then at that show, he maybe was a little better, but still not that good.
Yeah.
And I feel like it seemed almost that his proportions were off a little bit from what they used to be. And then I was like, you wonder if he's on the way out.
At that time.
Yeah, at that time,
Maxed out.
And then, you kind of, all these things go through your head, and I say, I wonder if that is happening now. Well, unfortunately, it didn't, but I think that it kind of gave him a kick in the ass, and it's like, holy shit.
Defeating Ronnie Coleman in 2002 was the defining moment of Günter Schlierkamp's career. But contrary to what many believe, his story didn't end there. Over the next several years, Günter remained one of the world's elite bodybuilders, consistently earning top finishes against the greatest competitors of his generation. In 2003, he returned to the Mr. Olympia stage and once again placed 5th, proving that his victory over Ronnie had been no fluke. The following year, he improved even further, finishing 6th in one of the deepest Olympia lineups in history. Then came 2005.
the other German giant, I might add, at over 300 pounds, Dan.
The audience reaction says it all. Günter Schlierkamp is certainly one of the most popular figures in the sport. He is now competing in his 8th Mr. Olympia. He weighs in at over 300 pounds. He's got one career win to his credit, but Sean, it was a big one.
It was a monster, and he's actually made a career out of that. Granted, he did beat Ronnie Coleman. He did come back. Ronnie flew all the way in from Holland to get upset by Günter Schlierkamp, the golden boy of bodybuilding, gracing the covers of Flex magazine. But you know what? Tonight, it looks like he's brought the package that may be able to crack that top 4.
At his absolute peak, Günter delivered the best Olympia performance of his career, earning an impressive 4th place finish. It was the highest placing of his professional career and cemented his status as one of the top bodybuilders in the world.
In 2005, though, I looked really good, and I got 4th. But do you know what the weird thing about that show is? And
that was Ronnie's last win.
Yeah, right? But you know what the funny thing is? I did not get once. We're talking about not even once compared to the top 3.
That's crazy, and you were 4th.
Yeah, it was Ronnie, Jay, and Victor Martinez, top 3. Separate. I was 4th, and I was like, how do you? And then Arnold came backstage, and he literally goes on the chest like, you should have been up there. I don't know what they did to you. And it was like, oh my God, it's like, so he came backstage, and he said, your symmetry. And that was a year where really the condition was good, and my symmetry was just different.
By 2006, things had begun to change. After years of pushing his body to its absolute limits, the progress had slowed. Recovery became harder, improvements became smaller, and his physique no longer responded the way it once had. At the 2006 Mr. Olympia, Günter finished in 10th place. It would be his final appearance on bodybuilding's biggest stage.
In 2006, that was the last one, and I placed like 10 or whatever.
Yeah, you were 10.
And I tell you what, at 36 I can tell, so I started really hitting it intense already, like literally from 16, 18 years on. So there's many years where I noticed, the best progress I made actually later in my age than as a junior, because I was overtraining at a young age a lot.
Right.
So I pretty much can say that more my joints hurt than my muscle from being sore.
Did you feel yourself getting old? Did you feel like,
No, actually what I know, not in that way. I felt like, I felt always good.
Okay.
It just was like the body was not anymore as responding because of, maybe you have done this extreme sport for so much, all of a sudden I can tell and, look, with Kevin, some people say that too, his legs all of a sudden.
The legs are the first
and
thing to go.
And that was with me too. My legs were the first one to go.
Did you find yourself when you're in 10th place? It's a lot different than when you're in 4th place. Watching the show, watching the call outs, feeling left out, or feeling like it had passed you by, like you missed the wave, like this is it. Because, there's a big difference in being top 4 and being in the second half. So you're not getting the love, you're not getting the attention. What is that feeling for you?
It wasn't as bad as people would think. I mean, first of all, you gotta understand, we all had our time. You walk on stage, you know how that feels, man. The people cheering and stuff, that's what you live for. For me to retire, and then it's like, I still had always a good, a following for a long time still. They always said, oh, you gotta
come back.
Come back, and all this stuff,
The gentle giant had spent more than a decade competing against the greatest bodybuilders in history. And while he never captured the Sandow trophy, he had already achieved something that very few ever could. He had defeated Ronnie Coleman at the height of his reign and secured his place as one of bodybuilding's most unforgettable competitors. After the 2006 Mr. Olympia, Günter knew it was time to move on. After more than a decade competing against the greatest bodybuilders in history, his body simply wasn't responding the way it once did. Rather than chasing one final comeback, he chose to retire from professional bodybuilding and began a new chapter of his life. Today Günter lives in the United States with his family and works as a semi-truck driver. It's a quieter life than the one he lived under the bright lights of the Olympia stage, but one that continues to make a meaningful difference.
But you know what I do in the meantime too? I'm driving semi-truck.
Oh, good. Melvin Anthony does that.
A huge semi-truck, and I have runs always up north. So I go one day up, come back the next. Everything I drop, every load I drop actually feeds a kid. That is what the company is about.
That gives you purpose.
And it's like, and it's me, I'm my own boss. You get like, okay, here's your load. And say, that bomb, do it. And it kind of works.
For years, many believed Günter's story had slowly faded into bodybuilding history. But then something unexpected happened. More than 20 years after defeating Ronnie Coleman, a new generation discovered him. Across TikTok, Instagram and YouTube, millions of people began sharing cinematic edits of Günter's legendary physique. Videos set to songs like Happy Nation introduced him to an audience that had never even watched bodybuilding in the early 2000s. The trend became so popular that even Günter's own son, Jay, came home from school after classmates showed him the viral edits of his father. A bodybuilder once overlooked by many had suddenly become an icon to an entirely new generation.
Kind of start Googling me after a certain age.
Yeah, at 15 he knows who you were.
Oh, 100%. And then all his buddies too.
Yeah.
So now his buddies came, even when I said, can I get a signed autograph? And all that. And now they would, these videos, they go crazy on in Instagram.
Yeah, who your dad was?
No, Smile.
No.
What is it? Mr. Smile or whatever. And it's like, because I get, Triple H does interview on stage, and I said, hey, what pose you would like to do?
I remember. A smile, yeah, I remember
smile.
that.
Yeah. And then it comes with the music. These kids posting it like crazy.
Viral, yeah.
That is very crazy. And then he comes back from school, and he was literally, what was he, in the 6th, 7th grade? I said, Papa, you must have gone viral. I said, what? Everybody shows me this video.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Günter Schlierkamp never stood on an Olympia stage holding a Sandow trophy. But his story was never just about winning. It was about believing in yourself when nobody else did. It was about leaving home to chase an impossible dream. It was about proving that persistence can take you further than anyone ever expected. More than 20 years later, his legacy isn't defined by a single placing, a single competition, or even a single victory. It's defined by the journey. And perhaps that's exactly what Günter understood all along.
I learned to appreciate that time.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes, you run a diet, you said, fuck this, I'm so glad if I don't have to do this anymore, right? And you know what? The funny thing is, it's not the glory that I today loved, it's a journey.
I always, right? That's my word. You hear me talk about the journey all the time.
It is really, like you said, you come here, first of all, you in a way, you maybe even scared, do you do the right thing? Does this all work out? Every day you get up and it is in your head.
Right.
You can't slow down, you can't miss this, you can't do this and stuff. Like you said, you don't go parties. People eat their cakes and we kind of eat like the tuna and all this stuff.
It's different.
But it's like, but at the end of the day, man, you just go and say, that was it. I mean, it is a journey. What it takes to get to the top.
If you made it this far into the video, please consider subscribing and leave me your opinion on Günter's career and his placings down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this documentary, leave me down some recommendations on which stories I should tell in the next one. Thank you very much for watching, and I see you in the next one.
When I got into it, I watched Pumping Iron, the tape, and I said one day, and I was 16 years, I just started working out, and said one day I will be on that stage. And today I am.